I've been having an electronic harassment problem with my neighbors, and I was actually able to record it. What happened was I had been getting woke up with what felt like a shock.
Really?
So what I did is I wanted to find out what was waking me up. I'm a little bit nervous, so it's kind of...
That's all right. Just relax. Take a deep breath.
So what I did was I wanted to find out what was waking me up, so I set up a camcorder with the light on me.
Sure.
And I was fully clothed and everything, and that's what I was able to film was videotape, was these shocking sensations and these outrageous body convulsions that I've been going through and have been experiencing.
Okay, and so you had a videotape of yourself convulsing.
Well, it shows like electrical shock. Now, this is done over a period of a few weeks, and what I did is what you do is I videotape myself, and then I simply fast forwarded to when I woke up, and then went into real time mode to see what woke me up.
Yes.
And that's what I was able to videotape. Now, I'm fully employed. I work 11-hour days. My house sits on over half an acre. And I know where it's coming from, but I don't have the money to hire the expertise that Roger has, or hire his services. I would like to, but I'm looking for somebody who would like to expose this, and because I have probably 30 videotapes showing this evidence that Roger has.
But all right, but do you have evidence that goes beyond your convulsing or something like that? In other words, can you rule out a physiological explanation for what's happening to you?
What happened is as Roger was telling you, one of the symptoms is irregular heartbeat. So what happened to me one time after this started, the more extreme ones that I said to him happened to me about 3 times one night. So I went down to the VA hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack or something. Mm-hmm. So they did a complete blood work on me and everything, and they everything is normal.
Everything's normal.
I sent Roger a copy of that.
All right, Roger, so you got a copy of this tape from this man. Yes. Do you recall reviewing that?
Yes, I did, yeah. And I've passed it on to some medical people that I know for them to evaluate it from a medical standpoint. And
well, that was my first question, that you would eliminate that.
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear what they have to say about it, and that's where it stands at this time.
Suppose they say, well, okay, we don't think it's medical. It does seem like it's external. How would you begin to go about investigating, assuming he had the funds, what was happening to him?
Yeah, we'd actually have to bring all that equipment into that location and hope that the phenomenon took place and make readings real time.
Boy, it's almost like conducting some sort of paranormal investigation. That's really strange stuff.
Very close.
All right, let's take a couple of calls. First-time caller, Diane in California. Hi, Diane. You're on with Robert Guffey.
Yes, I was just listening to your program, and I had a couple of questions. I went through about 4.5 years of some really crazy stuff in Simi Valley, California. And I was just wondering if you guys had ever heard anything about them doing things to people's eye.
What are you talking about?
Like, I went to an eye doctor once there, and I had the puff of air test, and the one that I took there was extremely painful. And then I kept feeling like there was something in my eye afterwards, and I could see like a shadow in the mirror by my eye, and I kept seeing like the kind of patterns that lasers make with little dots, and they make triangles. I kept seeing that pattern reflecting off of me and on the shower wall and mirrors and stuff sometimes, and I had a lot of things happen to me out there. I was just curious if you guys had ever heard anything about something like that.
I have never heard of anything like that specifically from people who have contacted me. However, I will say that I wouldn't be surprised if people are being gang-stalked in Simi Valley. I think that you wouldn't have to do too much to stand out in Simi Valley.
And Diane, when you say crazy stuff was happening to you, meaning what? Was it kind of the kinds of things?
About 4.5 years, I was being gang-stalked, and my phones were tapped, and I kept hearing things on my roof and outside my bedroom window. every time I would come home, I would hear a certain signal. It was like a whistle. It would go, so I started paying attention and learning their signals, and like they used to use this long pole every time I would be in my bathroom. They forced me out of the house I was living in and into a house they wanted me to live in, which was like a block over from where I lived, and it went from like, just following me to like total surveillance at that point in my home, and they were using lasers and freaking motion detectors, and I saw people literally disappear before my very eyes twice there.
Well, I'd be curious to know, do you have any idea why you think this started, or is it just random?
Okay, I found out since then that it probably wasn't just one thing, that it was a few things coming together to look like one thing and drive me nuts. But I at one point I think the feds were involved.
But why? Why?
Because I had some relatives that lived in another state that were mules and coming out here to California and buying crystal meth and taking it back there.
Ah.
Yeah, and my dad was like their uncle, and he came to visit me, and I think because of that, they thought I was involved because I lived in California,
Diane, thanks for sharing that with us. Tom in Taft, California, on the wild card line. Hi, Tom.
Hi, gentlemen. How you doing?
Howdy.
Well, I just want to say I've been involved in this program for about 14 years after falling out with a crime boss that I knew all my life. I can't mention any names, but I didn't know he was a crime boss until after my falling out with him, including my brother, too. And just to hit the nail on the head with a few things, you have General John Jumper, former Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force, who said, I predict we'll have the tools to make people see, hear, and believe things that do not exist. This is the former Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force. This guy didn't escape a mental institution. Lieutenant General Perutz said that I want to put sound in people's heads, and I'm going to hire Laurel Optical in Pasadena to do it. You have Lieutenant Colonel Timothy Thomas, who wrote the military paper, The Mind Has No Firewall, and the military paper Parameters, spring 1998, U.S. Army War College, who said that we can use this, we can compromise the microscopic hair cells in the inner ear of somebody. This is a Lieutenant Colonel Timothy Thomas, okay? These are high-ranking military officials. These aren't people that wear tinfoil hats. And this little bit of evidence I've given you thus far confirms that they have the ability to do the very thing that you've discussed tonight on the show.
Tom, you said at the beginning that you've been involved in the program for 14 years. What program are you talking about?
I'm talking about the gang stalking program.
What do you mean you've been involved?
Gaslighting, thing coming in, things moved around in your house, little things missing, vandalism to your floors. You come in, giant cuts in your floors, and they want you to call the police so you look like you're a tinfoil hat, so you look like you're crazy. The police aren't going to believe somebody's coming to my house making huge cuts on my floors. Of course, if you came home to your house and you know what your floors look like, and you see a huge cut in them, you're going to believe somebody did it. And, and naturally, or chisels cut out of my door frame, or I had a guy approach me and my 8-year-old son at the park February 24th here in Taft telling me, if you open your effing mouth, you're going to go to jail, in front of my 8-year-old son, And I called the police the next day, and I tried to get a police report, and she told me, the sheriff's deputy told me, Tom, you should have called us right when he said this to you and all this, I've had a police car waiting at the bottom of my driveway, a highway patrolman. I took a picture of him on my cell phone. That picture's still on my cell phone.
Let me ask you, Tom, because we're almost out of time, but let me ask you, do you have an idea why?
Yeah,
why you?
I have ringing in my ears. I suffer with tinnitus. I had to go on a
why? Why you?
Why? I had a falling out with this individual I've known all my life, and he told me, Tom, don't be surprised by the time I'm done with you, they don't take you away in a straitjacket. And, he told me this, in Chicago. And, but the thing of it is, and I've had my life threatened more than once. I had a guy come and sit next to me at Starbucks in Ventura, California, one afternoon, and he told me he was an ex-police officer. He was well-dressed in a suit. He was like in his middle 60s probably. And he goes, can I sit down? Do you have a coffee? He goes, sure.
Tom, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry you called at this time, but we're out of time. But I tell you, I encourage you to send an email to me, and I'll pass it along to Robert, and maybe he can share some information we did, but you should check out the website that he had mentioned earlier. West of the Rockies, John in California. Hi, John.
Hello. Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning. George,
yes.
I just want to say I think you're great. You're awesome. You're only second to Art Bell, in my opinion.
Well, thanks very much.
That's a close second. I wish you were on Saturdays. I wish you did both days. I have a couple questions. Does your guest believe or know about the advanced mind control technology that our government possesses? And what's the connection with UFOs or ETs?
Which technology are you talking about?
Advanced electronic mind control. And I'm just because, I've heard some ET abductees who claim to be abductees actually communicate with these beings without voice, through their minds. And I'm wondering if there's a connection between, that technology and our government reverse engineering or learning about that. That's the main question. And then I had another question on.
Well, hold on. Let us tackle that one first.
Okay.
Mark, I know that you have a number of contacts that we both share in the who have government connections, who have a great familiarity with mind control, mind expansion, remote viewing, things of that sort.
Yep.
I wonder if you could address that, how far along down the road that kind of technology or techniques are, and are you familiar with any kind of mind control machines?
Well, obviously, as you will verify, George, you and I are never going to be told anything that we're not allowed to be told, so that takes care of that part. There's open source or openly known mind affecting weaponry that can cause you to panic, cause you to feel nauseous, cause you to vomit, cause you to run, whatever. We certainly get lots of contact emails from people who hit the contact button on the site, from people who truly believe that they are, under the influence of mind control from nefarious sources.
Right. But most of it's not. I don't believe I don't believe it's ET. I believe it's man. I believe it's man. But go ahead.
Yeah, and most of these emails, are along that line. The government is controlling my mind, or the secret societies, or whoever. Kind of like the chemtrails, the evidence is really thin. Does that mean it doesn't exist? Heck, I don't know. But as far as, we actually did an investigation with one fellow in California, and I sent one of our team members out to get videotape. He claimed that he had witnessed the people, across the street pointing a bizarre-looking apparatus in his direction, and he broke out in hives. All kinds of things happened to him. He had strange thoughts. He heard voices in his head, et cetera, et cetera. We sent one of our investigators out who spent hours with him, set him up with video cameras, the whole thing. Unfortunately, nothing came back from that, so I just don't know. I don't know what I don't know. I'll admit that.
Yeah, but Dennis Kucinich, a very well-respected congressman of Ohio, introduced a bill, I think it was in the year 2000, banning many space weapons, and in it was the wording psychotronic weapons. He actually specified psychotronic weapons.
Yes, he did.
That's another word for psychotronic is what the Russians use for the American mind control.
That's correct, and we actually.
So why would? Surely you must know more about this. Why would Dennis Kucinich introduce a bill with psychotronic weapons in it? If he, he's a congressman, he knows a hell of a lot more than you or I do. I'm sure. If he didn't think it existed.
Well, like I said, there are weapons that are out in the quasi-public domain that are psychotronic for sure, and they're actually a step further. They're physio-psychotronic, to where they can not only affect you psychologically, but they can affect you physically and cause you to vomit, cause you to very nasty things to happen. And I think, but again, I don't know what I don't know, but I think his intent was to make sure that we never put that weaponry up in space where it can be blown out in a shotgun fashion, or other words, a wide bandwidth where it can affect lots of collateral and innocent people, versus the laser beam, very directed at the combatant functionality that they have today.
Meaning it was a preventive measure that he was saying, look, if we develop this, we shouldn't use it.
Right. Well, it's actually, we've developed it, and I think he was just trying to make sure it never got into space. We do have weapons that today can be applied in the battlefield that if it's pointed at you, you are either going to run in fear, you're going to vomit, you're going to be incapacitated in some fashion through brain control, basically. And I think Congressman Kucinich's concern was to make sure those weapons never get deployed in space, because it would have a terrible effect on lots of people and would be just a rotten thing for us to do.
John, let me ask you this. Are you a person who's had these experiences?
No, I don't want to get into that because it's really not important. What is important for your audience to know is the technology exists, and I would have found it hard to believe, but because unless you know a lot about either the brain and or electronics or both, it's very hard for most people to understand. So on to the next question. There was, during the Obama inauguration, there was a reporting of some kind of object that was moving very quickly over the crowd of people. And it was actually recorded on, I think it was a YouTube video. And if I remember correctly, the CNN anchors even commented about it. So it makes it hard for somebody to dismiss it as some kind of Photoshop job. Now, are you aware of that one?
Well, it rings a bell for me, but I don't remember. I don't remember what the object looked like.
You just Google UFO Obama inauguration. It was a very fast moving. The frames were just incredibly fast. That's why most people probably didn't even notice it or see it. But
Mark, have you seen it?
I vaguely remember it coming up, but to be honest, I haven't looked at it in a while, and I'm just not remembering it clearly enough to speak to it.
Sorry, John, we couldn't help you on that. Maybe one of our other listeners will tune in on that. Thanks for the interesting call. The psychotronic weapon thing, I get calls not every day, but certainly every week from people who think that they are the victim of some sort of a mind control beam weapon. And, the stories they tell are pretty wild. It's tough to prove it. You have to wonder how many of them are hearing voices in their head that are emanating from inside their brain as opposed to some other weapon. It's hard to distinguish between somebody who's crazy and somebody who might be actually the victim of this kind of technology.
Yeah, we get them virtually daily, and some days multiple. People reaching out to us along those lines, and it's hard to read and it's hard to think about, but the evidence is skinny, so it's also hard to get really worked up about.
Well, that would be awfully tempting to use that kind of technology if you could, shoot something at the Kremlin or something and really mess them up. I would think that we would want to have that kind of technology, and I guess we're working on it.
Ann is in New York, east of the Rockies, on Coast to Coast AM. Ann?
Hi, this is Ann Collins in New York. Ann, I have something very serious to tell you. I remember your guest, wonderful, Catherine Austin Fitz, talking about the, quote, non-lethal weapons that she was attacked with. Well, I've been attacked with these for a couple of years now, and they're not non-lethal because at this point they just shake my whole body. It's electromagnetic fields, definitely. It's thrown my neck completely out of whack, according to X-ray, and compressed me. It's like a huge gravitational field, which, of course, is a part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and I've done my homework. Your guest, Roger Tulsis, bugsleeps.com, has literature on this, what electromagnetic fields can do. And what it's doing now is racing my heart up to 154 beats a minute sometimes, and my normal blood pressure is 70/80, which is very nice. I mean, I'm a health food nut. And my blood pressure goes up as far as 185/110, and it just feels as if they're killing me.
Well, tell me, who's doing it? Who's doing it?
Well, it can only be CIA or National Security Agency because it's a black operation.
Why would they do it to you?
There are a lot of doctors involved in this. I'm very psychic. I've seen them. Dr. Lori Nadell said on Coast to Coast that torture causes people to be psychic by making neural contacts, and I've seen a terrific number of doctors.
Why would they be doing it to you?
Well, because they use me as a mind control slave.
But why?
I have memories of this, and because I was a political activist. And since that time, I've been attacked by helicopters, German chemical warfare, almost died. I've traveled all over the world to try to find a safe place to live that I could afford, out of money completely and out of luck. And I'm being tortured, literally.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Now, they have this in mind for everyone because I've been implanted. My doctor felt this thing in my neck. He said, that's like a little BB. And I said, yes. And I felt it go in with a sting.
Why don't you take it out?
I asked him to take it out. He said, I don't do invasive things. I can hardly walk, hardly move. I could hardly get to the x-rays. I'm being pulsed forward and back and side to side. Been to a neurologist. He says it's not neurological. And described it, that I'm being pushed to and fro and sideways in a very strange way.
How are you making ends meet?
Social Security.
Okay.
You see, when they get older, you know Stephen Quayle, he's been on your program. He's got a book called Weather Wars and Unnatural Disasters. Mm-hmm. And in his book on, page 237, low-power electromagnetic waves can cause normal people to go into seizures. That's one section, and then it goes on to death ray and the whole thing. Then there's
I'm still kind of curious about why you,
I'm going to read that to you. 157. Here is one of O'Brien's quotes. This is Kathy O'Brien. Slaves of advancing age or with failed programming were sacrificially murdered at random in the wooded grounds of Bohemian Grove. And she's saying, and I felt it was only a matter of time until it would be me. I have heard them say to me, they use psychotronic weapons as well. My partner is getting some of this as well. And they have shown me mentally, you've probably seen the Washington Post article on psychotronic weapons, haven't you?
No, I missed that one, and I'm sorry.
Okay, well, there is one.
Okay.
And, I mean, if I can give you my number, give it off air, and you can call me. I've got a ton of research here.
I'll be happy to research it. Well, you sound tortured. You sound like somebody going through.
Believe me.
And I don't know where else you can turn. I mean, I wish I had somebody that could.
I don't either. And the problem is, to quote Einstein, condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance. And people just want to toss it off because they don't want to believe it. But believe me, you read David Icke and the CIA people that told him that this is going to happen. They not only want to monitor and track us with implants, but to control us emotionally. And I was seeing things. I was even able to travel without my body. I've seen beautiful places and beautiful things without going through any, gyrations to do it, just naturally. So they're holding me down. They're trying. You see, David Icke says that this is a vibrational prison. As far as I'm concerned, the gravity is the prison. They have somehow looked into the caves, the crystal caves and things like that. They're doing. I don't believe we would have this kind of gravity at all. Well, now the Earth is losing its gravitational field, and they're peppering it with electromagnetic spectrum, which is gravity is a part of, probably to keep us in this vibrational prison. Because we are multidimensional beings and can go anywhere.
Well, I'm sorry this is happening to you, and I'm glad you let us know so that if it gets worse or that there's other things.
They may kill me. My name is Ann Collins.
Okay.
I live in New York City.
Let's hope they don't.
I would like to give a number in case George or you or someone can call. I've got a terrific amount of information. This started for my partner and me in 1994 with screeching in our ears. We're both musicians. He's a musicologist.
Okay, well, I would say...
And the screeching with one predominant pitch at the same moment, standing in the same room. My doctor saw something in my ear abnormal, and with the tympanic nerve swollen, and I got the name of the surgeon for him. The next day I went for x-rays. I came back to him. He looked at my ear again. Gone.
And if you don't take a breath, I'm going to be standing here in the middle of the room, and I'm going to be screaming, okay? So let me just say, let me jump in and say this you sound truly distressed, and what I would recommend you do is I could give you a number, but I'm not exactly sure why. I think the more interesting thing to do would be make sure you keep an accurate account of this. You sound like you have a lot of evidence, and if you want to, put it in an email to us here at Coast to Coast, and maybe when we've got an author coming up or somebody else that would that might pertain to this material, we can run some of these details past them, so just keep listening. Let's get to wrestling. Let's go to, is it Bert on Wild Card 3 on Coast to Coast AM? Bert?
Yes, hi. Have you heard anything about the Bay Area Filipina suicides?
No. You got my attention already.
Well, basically, satellite weapons, electromagnetic weapons, were used to drive women into performing sex acts used by Justice Department officials, and they were driven to suicide. There was an attempt to obstruct justice. The military tribunal was involved. The matter, the Senate Judiciary has had secret hearings on the matter.
Well, stop right here. Stop. If they were secret, how do you know they happened?
Well, it happened to my wife.
She committed suicide?
No. But she was tortured into performing sex acts. It happened to some of her Filipina registered nurses. When I reached out to the Senate Judiciary, the various intelligence agencies, the CIA, NSA, FBI were all involved in investigating the matter. And basically the investigation came to a halt when it was determined that Robert Mueller was also involved in the scandal.
The FBI director?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
back up for a second. I got to ask you a question. So your wife essentially cheated on you against her will?
Correct.
Okay. How was she manipulated into doing this? Where was she? What happened?
Well, basically, the way that these weapons work is the physics are magnetic. It basically engages a satellite tracking device onto the human skull, and they're able to direct acoustics. The brain hears the acoustics. They have different tools at their disposal. They can cause painful headaches. They can cause dysfunctional cognitive ability. One of your guests Nick Begich spoke about the effects of electromagnetic weapons.
Right.
Basically, it's widely used. It's used against some politicians in the legislative branch. Some of the side effects include brain tumors. You might see some folks.
So Senator Kennedy's brain tumor might have been caused by the same thing that caused your wife to cheat on you.
Correct. In fact, the congressmen and the senators that sit on both the House and Senate Judiciary have received attacks by way of electromagnetic weapons. It's very common. It's been common for several years.
Okay, I want to slow down a little bit. So again, how did your wife? How did she? Then they pinpointed your wife directly.
Directly.
Okay, why would they choose her?
I don't know. They were attacking several Filipinas.
Why Filipinas? Why Filipina nurses?
I think for several reasons. I think they have limited family ties.
Okay. Why would that matter?
Well, I really don't know why. I really don't know why.
Family ties. She's married to you. Heck, I mean, it's not like they're picking up runaways at bus stations.
Well, basically, these women, they come to the United States to support their family home. They have, limited family ties here in the United States. I really don't know why they pick this type of demographic.
Okay, but you confronted your wife about having cheated on you, and she told you that this was some sort of beam that came down that controlled her mind into doing it.
No, she came home one day and with tears coming out of her eyes, told me that an old man, very powerful, sees everything, had raped her, and she tried to tell me what had happened and was turning her head, and she didn't tell me what was happening to her because she thought that I just wouldn't believe her. And after I reported what had happened to the FBI, I went to the FBI's office in San Francisco 6 times.
Why would you go to the FBI instead of the local police if she'd been raped by somebody?
Well, I did call the second in command at the local police department in Dublin, and but I really didn't get any traction at the time. I did not know that it was a federal agent that raped my wife, and when I reported it to the FBI, they put me through the same torture. They basically tortured my head the same way. It happened to 2 of my vice presidents at companies where I worked.
Okay. I'm running out of time here, but that's and so this has been published. You said, had I heard about this? So this has been covered in the news somewhere.
It hasn't been covered in the news, but you can read about it if you Google Bay Area Filipino suicides.
Then I'll do that, and I appreciate the heads up, and sure. I'll look into that for a future topic here on Coast to Coast. What an interesting alchemy of things.
Sure.
Thank you, and we'll just leave that there. We'll come back. More open lines next on Coast to Coast AM. This is Ian Punnett.
Yes, hi, George.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that these satellite weapons that we possess, they're really an enlarged version of the electron microscope. They're able to, read information off of a dime. These electromagnetic weapons that are embedded into these satellites that are able to torture an individual, they are able to lock on, they have satellite tracking capabilities, and they're able to, hear conversations and torture an individual from a distance. They basically use...
I know who you are. You've been sending me emails about satellite control of the mind and things of that sort, right?
Exactly. They use essentially Tesla technology where they direct 2 lasers of different polarities, and where the lasers intercept, it essentially causes a spark.
And what's the proof for this, Bert? What proof do you have for this?
Well, basically this they've been using these weapons to torture women into performing sex acts and to keep people from whistleblowing. They've used these weapons on legislative branch members, on media folks. They've used these weapons for a number of years. And basically, my wife was raped by a federal agent, and I actually reported it to the local FBI office in San Francisco. And after that happened, I was tortured, and there was an effort to obstruct justice to prevent me from coming forward.
Whoa. Slow down here. Who tortured you?
The individual that raped my wife.
Same guy who raped your wife tortured you. Did you report it to the police?
Well, I reported it to the FBI. I met with 6 different duty agents, and then I visited the U.S. Attorney's Office in Oakland. I met with Kim Briggs 3 times. But there was a bit of a challenge because they have a conflict of interest. Apparently there is this secret society where there are...
Hey, Bert, I got to stop you for a second. Hold on. I mean, I don't mean to be disrespectful. You sound like you've had a rough time of it. But if you went to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney and told them that a federal agent had raped your wife and tortured you, and it has something to do with a Tesla technology from space, you can see why maybe they're not taking you seriously. It has nothing to do with a secret society. It might be that just it sounds crazy to them. That's why I'm asking you, what proof do you have that these events happen?
Well, they happen to my vice presidents, companies where I've worked. They happen to other people that I know.
Hey, Bert, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's a fascinating story. You can send more to me online. You've obviously got my web address, and we're going to move on. Thank you for the call. Hope you're doing okay and your wife as well.
Bert is in the Bay Area on Coast to Coast AM. Open lines. Bert, where are you going to take us?
Yes. Hi, Ian. I wanted to report that an incident that took place some years ago when my wife was raped by a federal agent. I reported it to the FBI and the legislative branch about 2 years ago. And since then, I haven't seen a special prosecutor.
Is this the story of the Filipino woman in San Francisco?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, right?
Yes, and right. And
right, you've called in a couple of times.
Mm-hmm, I have.
Is there something new on that?
Only that the Oakland U.S. Attorney's Office.
Okay, that gets into a whole thing where it just feels like and I hope that they bleep that, because then you're just using us. Because if you do that, then you're just using us. I mean, I'm not saying you're not right, and I'm not saying that a horrible thing didn't happen to your wife, and I'm so sorry that happened to you, but man, you can't use us. You can't get our license in jeopardy. You can't get our show in jeopardy by naming names like that and calling people things like that they haven't even been accused of. And I respectfully ask you, I know that you're a person in pain, and that cannot be easy to think of something like that that's awful that's happened. But I've also read a lot of the stories about her online, and we can talk about it, but you just can't use the show to do that, because that's just a whole nother legal area. Well, I did a little sussing around here after that last caller. Bert was telling us about the Bay Area Filipina suicides, said that his wife had been manipulated by some sort of ray from an orbiting satellite of some sort, and had been mind-controlled into committing sex acts with people who were connected to the government, and that this goes all the way up to the highest levels of government. He said that all I do is Google those words, Bay Area Filipina suicides, and I'd see more. I have, but everything I see has Bert's name on it. At least so far, the only entries I find are his testimony, similar to what he just gave us, on Craigslist, a website which he appears to run, a video which is entered by him on YouTube, and I'm just going to a third site here, which he links up to his own video on YouTube, so I'm going to guess and say Bert was behind that one, too. I'd love to see more information on that, not because I hope that it's true. I hope that it's not. I hope that's a hoax. I hope he's in a band called Bay Area Filipina Suicides, or he's got some sort of Blair Witch Project movie he's putting together, and he's trying to create some, sort of brush fire on the internet on. I hope none of this is true, but we'll continue to look into it, and we'll see whether or not that's worthy of a show in the future. So, Ace, thanks for hanging on, and thanks for calling back. Our thoughts are with you.
Thanks for having me, Ian. The reason I wanted to call was to piggyback off of Project MKUltra that was done possible and made possible from Operation Paperclip. I am a targeted individual. Project MKUltra has never stopped. The CIA came out and said they stopped it in the 1970s. How Shooters Are Made is a program I am in.
I don't know what that.
How Active Shooters Are Made is a program that I am in.
How Active Shooters Are Made is a program that you are in.
It's an off branch of MKUltra.
And that you are being trained to become an active shooter.
I was my whole life. There was a rumor going around in my school that I was going to shoot up the school due to a friend's death. And I was going to made a hit list and was going to shoot up the jocks at the school I was at.
Okay.
This was before Columbine.
Why are you still in this program?
There's different off branches to Project MK Ultra. There's different types of MK Ultra.
I don't care. Why are you involved in any way with a program where you would end up shooting people?
Because that's how shooters are made. This is against my will. This is against our will. Target individuals around the world.
How could you be against your will and you're calling a radio show?
It is my will that I'm calling. The D.C. Navy Yard shooter, Aaron Alexis, when he carved on his weapon, this is my ELF weapon. It stands for extremely low frequencies.
Okay, but I'm talking about you. So why are you still involved in this program? Why haven't you taken all of the evidence? Why haven't you taken all of your connections and blown the lid off this thing? If this is true, and we're just two guys on a phone, but if this is true and everything you're saying is 100% verifiable, why are you still involved? And what's the profit other than in becoming complicit in being a merchant of death for innocent people?
I've been trying to expose this for a very long time. I went down to the Federal Bureau of Investigation in Buffalo, New York, to have this exposed with two agents named Randy and Mike.
Okay, but they fine. You got two boneheads in the FBI. What is it? I mean, if you've got what kind of evidence do you have that this is true?
I have X-ray evidence of a chip in my leg. I network with a former NSA whistleblower, Karen Melton Stewart, Kirk.
I don't know these names, so I can't verify. When you start doing last names, we can't do that. So, but let me ask you, what have you if you've got evidence?
Absolutely.
And you've gone to have you gone to a local university? Have you talked to investigative reporters? Have you showed them and you say, I will go undercover. I'll wear a wire to the next meeting of this thing where they're teaching you, forcing you to become an active shooter?
It's all done through subliminal messages, so ELF, which is extremely low frequencies. It's called V2K, which is done with first operation and Desert Storm was when the Marines went up against I think it was like 1,000 Iraqi soldiers. They used S-Squad.
But I'm asking about you. I'm asking about you. So you're saying your messages come to you ultra low frequency so that there is no evidence
ELF.
of them receiving these messages?
That's ELF, extremely low frequencies.
Yeah, that's what I just said. So, fine. So what is it that you're saying that they send you these messages saying you need to go do this thing, and this is, you believe, the CIA that's doing it?
It's done through Fusion Centers, COINTELPRO Group, Project Monarch, Project Reborn. It's done through all of it. This is how active shooters are made.
Okay. You and I are going to disagree on that. I'm not saying that. Wait. You and I are going to disagree that active shooters are made because they're pinpointed by the CIA and they're turned into robots and shooting machines and whatever. I don't believe that. But I'm going to put that aside for now. I'm more worried about you. If that's what you're being made, if this is your experience, then I think you have a moral obligation to do more to be stopped before you become the active shooter. Because you're saying in high school was the first time that you were accused of this. How old are you now?
I'm now 40 years old. I'll be 41.
Okay, so how come you haven't shot up anything yet?
Because I'm a Christian. By the grace of God, I'm not doing what they want to do. It's because of Christ that I'm able to. So
you're able to, through prayer, you're able to resist these ultra low frequency things. Are you out there with that message to other people that you believe are being instructed by the CIA to become active shooters to say, use religion to keep away those messages?
username Yahshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ. Absolutely. I have a target individual group. I have a private group that's been deemed as a terrorist organization legally, and I had to legally deem it as a 3%er group, as a militia group. It's called TINWO Resistance 1776 on Facebook.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I'll go take a look. Appreciate the heads up. I'm glad you're not doing it. I'm glad that you are resisting it. That if this is what's happening to you, that people are getting through to you with these messages, that you're getting the help that you need, and that you're helping other people in the process. All right, let's start with Darnell, who's been waiting the longest on Coast to Coast. Let's go east of the Rockies on Coast to Coast. Hey, Darnell.
Yeah, hey.
Thanks for your patience in Detroit. So it's open lines.
Yeah, I just want to talk about, some real live supernatural activities over here in my neighborhood, on my block, that
Tell me about that.
I've been experiencing since I've been like 3 years old.
In Detroit?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your neighborhood?
Beg pardon?
What's the neighborhood?
I'm over here off of Schoolcraft between Greenfield and Southfield Road.
Okay. And what's unusual that happens there?
But basically, I got some real live shadow people living next door to me.
In a whole, like a family of shadow people?
Different individual peoples or whatever it is, the next door neighbor. I've seen her wipe curses on my parents' house 2 times.
Tell me what you mean by that. I don't know.
From across the street, there's a whole bunch of activity going on over here since I've been in elementary school.
I believe you, but I mean, tell me about the curses. I want to understand what you said about the curses. You said that really fast, so I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
Next door neighbor, she don't live on the block no more, but I've seen her 2 times wipe a curse on my parents' house.
What does that mean, wipe a curse?
She had something in the plastic bag, wiping it on around a door frame.
Really?
Yeah, and I called the psychic. They told me she put a curse on the house or whatever.
Huh. What did you feel an effect from that?
I've been feeling... basically, they don't know. The same people who they dealing with, the same people who've been bothering me since I've been a little kid.
Huh. But, I mean, they wiped a curse. Now, was there an effect of that cause? Like, did something happen as a result of that?
A spirit came through the wall, grabbed me out the bed by my ankle, and it dropped me on my head, and I passed out. I was swinging at it, my arm was going through, and I fell on my head. It dropped me, and I passed out.
So the people that were next door, they left, but they left behind, if I'm getting you correctly, kind of a shadow version of themselves?
Well, basically, these are people that allegedly moved in. They try to make like their house is vacant, but it's basically the shadow people over there living. People that I've seen with my own 2 eyes, a dark shadow and like a cloud of puff of smoke. It's like demon body possession, demonic possession of someone's body, where they be tapping on you and you hear the voices in your ear, whispering in your ear. And the people across the street had a dial in a window with a moon crest and a star on his forehead. I guess they was doing some voodoo stuff. I've seen that before back in the early 90s to some other people's house that the same group of people did the same thing to them too. And I've seen the same thing done while I was a little kid before I went to elementary school. I'm 40 years old now. So
was there a lot of voodoo in your neighborhood that people would use?
It's people. This is a guy that I used to go to elementary school with. He used to say, "I walk a mile in your shoes," and now I found out that's a demonic possession. And when somebody says you need to go take a cruise, that means they're gonna put a spell on you. Different people have different code words.
Well, I will remember that, and thank you. I'm grateful that you hung on as long as you did. Thank you, Darnell.